So I'd just like to get your thoughts on how vendors need to think about incentives as it relates to the numbers and types of partners, please.
Yeah, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the audience. Thank you, Ken and Channel Mechnics, for having me here. Thank you, Paul. So yeah, it's, back in the day, we only had like a distributor to think about, maybe some resellers to think about, but as the industry has evolved, we obviously have a number of partners that we need to think about. So when I think about that particular question that you just asked, it's very important to align yourself to the go-to-market strategy of the company, first of all, and then understand what types of partners do you need, right? And so the types of partners today range not only from your typical distributor and your reseller, but also to solution providers, to MSPs, to master agents, to SIs, to global system integrators. All of them play a role and can play a very meaningful role in advancing your reach to your customers and extending your go-to-market strategy out to all the regions that you want. So with that in mind, the way I look at it is, how do you align go-to-market strategy and the capacity and coverage that you need from partners to the sales motions? So I look at three different sales motions. One is the partner sourcing deals, and are they running the sales cycle? The second sales motion is, are they influencing the sales cycle, right? And that customer behavior. And then third, are they fulfilling the demand and being more from that standpoint? All of them have value. Personally, I have gravitated towards more and more of valuing the sourced sales cycle a lot more than the other two. But again, they're all valuable to any particular organization. So with that in mind, I then look at sort of front end and back end. And I'm not going to talk about front end too much. You touched upon it earlier. Discounts and front end margin, that can be driven by the price list. But I will talk about is sort of the back end rebates and non-financial incentives that you can give also. So let's not forget non-financial incentives. So from a back end standpoint, giving a back end rebate to drive, like you said, partner behavior, I think is a very meaningful effort, right? And it's meaningful for the partner, and it's meaningful for your company. It's meaningful for your CFO, because then they can see that the money that we're spending is driving, hopefully, the right behavior that you expect from that particular partner. And so some of the objectives that I care about in my last 2 or 3 companies that I've been at is new logos, right? And so new customer acquisition is important. And I'm sure we'll talk about it here in the next couple of questions here, but new logos is important. Size of deals. We're looking at a particular rebate right now within the company that I'm in right now at IGEL, is to look at number of seats, right? And so these large enterprise deals that we really care about, is that something that we want to be able to incent and reward also. Competitive takeouts is another example where you can put a back-end rebate towards and saying, hey, if you go into these particular installed base and you take out our competitor, we'll give you a rebate for that, right? Vertical specializations is important. All of us, most of us, many of us are in software companies. And as we look at our industries, there are particular verticals that are super important to us. It could be healthcare, it could be financial services, it could be manufacturing. And so do you want to be able to incent your partners to have a specialization around a vertical and pay them on it, right? So those are all important things. And then probably the last one I'll point out is sort of a very important one, I think, for a software company these days is a subscription software company, is your success is going to be dependent upon renewals, a high renewal rate. And what does that mean? That means that the customer success and customer adoption of your solution needs to be high. And so how do you incent partners to be very good at that post-sales delivery of implementation of those services, right? That is important, and that's something that I'm starting to spend more time on too, as I start working in companies that are very focused on a subscription model. So those are some examples of back-end rebates that I think you can provide. I'll spend just 30 seconds on non-financial incentives, which are important too, to many partners, especially like GSIs, right? GSIs don't necessarily accept rebates. They don't want to necessarily accept payments from a manufacturer or a vendor. And so non-financial incentives for them are important. And a good one is focusing on the services that they deliver. So how do you enable that particular SI or GSI? How do you have an enablement program that is free for them? How do you certify them? And things like that, right? So I think those are kinds of things that are important for us as we go forward. So I'll stop there and turn it back to you.
Yeah, that's great, Balaji. Thanks. Yeah, I think the back end rebates for people that are listening in, it's one of the easier ones to justify with finance. Often we have challenges where finance push back on anything channel, but it's kind of a win-win. You don't pay out only typically on sales, so it's hard for finance to push back on that.